question everything. Be unique. Be a rebel. Be a healer. Be a leader. Be a light warrior. Welcome to the new Aeon. Hello ladies and gentlemen, warriors and maidens. This is Constantine from beautiful Melbourne, Australia, and you've just taken the red pill and entered the new Aeon 2012 again, or for the first time, where we go deeper down the rabbit hole than anyone has gone before. And while that may not be technically true, it still sounds pretty cool, so just go with it, ladies and gentlemen. Today I have an extra special treat for you very fine people, and I'm super excited to upload this. This was equally a great treat for me as it will be for you, because I've been looking forward to this interview for quite a few months, a couple of months at least now. It's in fact my first interview with the super cool Thomas Sheridan, and if we really want to get technical, I guess we could say it's my first proper interview ever, really. I did already do the Elven Queen interview. Some of you would have already watched that. This was about a couple of weeks ago before this, but that one, you know, technically it wasn't really 100% interview material. It was more of a two-way conversation, like it was a chat. It was actually a Skype chat that we had, and it was actually the camera. We had the camera on. But I just recorded the audio and uploaded that, edited bits and pieces out. So, but yeah, this one pretty much, I suppose, is my first real interview, and it's set out like that. I had questions pre-written and everything for Thomas. Now, for quite a few of you, he needs no introduction, but for those who haven't heard of him before, I need to give you a brief intro now. He will get into this stuff himself as well. But basically, all I want to say is that what happened with Thomas is when he was a young man, you know, early 20s, I believe, you could say synchronistically, got thrown into certain experiences and situations that made him look into the subject of psychopathy. And it was a new thing for him, and at the time, apparently, it was just new in general. You know, it wasn't talked about much or understood that well, you know, and eventually one thing led to another. This culminated in him eventually writing a book on the subject because he got extremely interested in it, and purely out of interest. Of course, it was nothing. This isn't, you know, you can't make this stuff up, boys and girls. You know, you can't fake this stuff. It's the genuine guys, we get thrown into this thing, whatever, you know, our individual, you know, quote unquote missions are. It's always the same story, you know, different guy, same story. It's basically you get thrown into something which you never expected. You know, there's always the same ingredients. There's always it's uncanny situation, or sort of like a spiritual kind of otherworldly, uncanny undertones. It's something, you know, and number two, something you never expected. Number three, it takes off in a bigger and better way and faster way than you expected, and it becomes, you know, a runaway hit where you thought, oh, I'm just going to write a book because I'm interested in it, or maybe, you know, maybe I'm going to sell 500 copies to a couple of friends, and then suddenly it's like bang. So, you know, there's hundreds of these types of stories, and Thomas Sheridan is one of them. So that's how basically it started. So it eventually became a job for him. And now he has developed, over the years he developed a reputation in the truther scene as being the psychopathy guy, quote unquote, the psychopathy guy, you could say. He's pretty much our scene's favourite psychopathy expert. He can basically, I would much rather listen to this guy talk about the subject than the supposed experts in the universities. Okay, so that's in a nutshell. As I said, he'll explain more about this. And now a little bit on how I came to know him. Basically, it was after I first got involved with the various truther groups on Facebook. The first time I ever found out that there are truther groups on Facebook at all, a year ago. So I met many people. It all snowballed, and hundreds of awesome truther friends. And one of them, she sent me a link to one of his videos. So she recommended him as a very good way to convince the more skeptical among us of the reality of the Archon/Djinn/reptilian issue. So I eventually watched it. It impressed me. I thought this is just what we need. It was it was refreshing to see his approach, because you don't really see it. It's a very original. I think there's no one else really that does it. What Thomas does. So it was a very grounded approach, and so forth. So I really took notice. So I started taking notice of his work. This is January, very early 2014, January, something like that, January this year. So I eventually friended him on Facebook, which is pretty surreal, because it's kind of a truther celebrity in my eyes. Seeing his video and being impressed, and then a month later it's like, what the hell? Now I'm friends with it. I'm chatting to this guy on Facebook. It was a bit, that kind of thing is surreal whenever it happens. And 8-9 months later, I'm interviewing him. So the surreal feeling just keeps getting more and more surreal, boys and girls, by the month, and I love it. I'm loving it. So anyway, to cut a long story short, I noticed that out of the many people I interact with on Facebook, in the truther friends, which pretty much all my friend lists, every single person on my friend list is a truther. He was the friendliest, the most open, and had the greatest sense of humour. You friend him, and a week later he's talking to you, with this approach as if he's known you for 100 years. You have other friends that are closer, that you've known for months and months, and shared secrets you've never told anyone. And even with them, sometimes you feel like a distance or whatever, a coldness. But Thomas, extremely very affable personality and all that stuff, and his humour is his strong point. So his posts are always hilarious and stuff. There's awesome interaction with all his friends on there, and it's just, it doesn't look like a very serious sort of doom and gloom conspiracy talk thing. It's mainly, he does talk about that stuff, but in a very humorous way. So I love that approach. And lo and behold, out of all the people the fates, let's say, could have picked to play this anti-psychopathy guy role in this current holodeck that we're experiencing now, amazingly so, it happens to be the really friendly / funny guy, rather than some super serious paranoid dude. So it's funny how that works, isn't it? Okay, so now I present you the main course. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen. I know you definitely will. So whatever it is, there's a physical aspect to it. Call it the reptilian brain and secondary and primary psychopathy, blah blah. But as most of us have concluded, it's like there's like an invisible, let's say, supernatural element. There must be something. Yeah. So that's pretty much.
I completely agree with that, and I have no problems. It's a spiritual element, whatever you want to use, but it definitely is.
But that's awesome. I guess we'll just start formally now. Thomas, this is the first time we've ever spoken. This is pretty much technically my first interview. I have another one up on the channel as well, with the Illuminati insider woman that I met from one of the groups. But it wasn't really a formal. I hadn't really written questions out and stuff. Now I've written some questions out, and I've sent them to you as well. And you agreed. We've got a bit of a special surprise for everybody here, for the people listening. We have a pretty plausible theory about chemtrails and their connection to Project Bluebeam that we kind of both agree on, and we came up with it independently. So we'll talk about it at the end. So tell us about your new book, first of all, Thomas.
Hi, Constantine. Well, the first book is the new book. Sorry, Walpurgis Night, Volume 1, 1919 to 1933. Is I've always been very interested in the occult aspects of politics.
Yes.
And magic, and it exists even in democracies, even in our current. We all have it. It exists. It's there, right?
Yes.
What the reasons they use it for, I don't know. I don't care. But they have it. They use it.
Yes.
And the National Socialists, more than anyone else, seem to have really turned. They almost like weaponized politics as a religion.
Right.
And that was probably why National Socialism was more success of all the forms of socialism. Yes. Was the most successful for that reason, for the simple idea that they tapped into a need for a kind of a spiritual salvation.
Right.
And when I started looking into the stuff, it's just a fantastic story of about 100 years of this building up almost like this idea of a Germanic Messiah,
like
and planting that idea into people's heads.
Yeah.
And so when it finally arrived, they were ready for it, and I believe that that's actually still going on. I see elements of that in Obama. I see it in other politicians, where a promise of a leader who will come, who will change everything. And the story behind what happened with the growth of National Socialism in the Third Reich is just an incredible story. If we were to make a movie of it,
if we were to make, like a real version, like the Star Wars character that Emperor Palpatine, that's kind of like a fictionalized version of that sort of thing. Somebody that used occult knowledge. Like, I mean, Hitler. To me, he was basically like a black magician, you could say, because you mentioned the magic. I mean, using it, or you could say basically using that stuff for, personal gain to hypnotize people and brainwash them. And that's pretty much what he did, I think. That's how he
He was absolutely schooled. And then there's the remarkable character of this, Rudolf Hess, who is still an enormous mystery. And so I'm having a fantastic time exploring these ideas, putting them out there, and writing them up in such a way that it's almost like a storytelling. Okay. So people, they really like the book because it reads more like a novel, and that's how I wanted it to come across. Because we've lost the ability to tell stories in that way to captivate. Yeah. So that's the story behind that book.
Okay, because I haven't really, all I know is what you've said about it in the few Facebook posts and stuff you make, because we do know each other through Facebook, by the way, for anyone that's listening, and I haven't read it. I like a few links and stuff that I've seen and what you said now, but I believe, I'm assuming you touch on the Thule Society and all that, and I think. The Vril, is it the Vril Society as well? Like those secret societies that backed Hitler?
The Thule Society, they were such a powerful paramilitary occult force.
Yes.
Made up of intellectuals and artists, and they had tremendous amounts of money and political power.
Yes.
And they basically destroyed the Bolsheviks in Munich, and it was a good thing they did it. But they didn't do it to save the people of Germany. They did it so they would bring in this new Germanic Christ. Adolf Hitler was definitely in contact with them. And Rudolf Hess, his handler, essentially was a Thulist.
Well, they basically groomed him. That society basically created the Nazis, didn't they? I mean, that's where it stems from. The whole philosophy, everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the society, more the case. Yeah, you're right. It does, absolutely. But there was groups before them, such as the Knights of the Templars, who were based in Vienna. And there was other groups too. So it was sort of like the Thulists were, again, the ones who weaponized the idea.
Okay. Well, it's fascinating that you mentioned the Knights Templar. This is kind of... The Knights Templar is one of my pet projects. I think, people complain about Zionists and Rothschild and blah, blah, blah. Well, I really think it's the Jesuits who are like an offshoot of a dark sort of version of the original Templars. What's the Templar connection there? Do you talk about that a lot?
The Knights. Well, the book
Sorry.
Well, it wasn't the Knights Templar; it was the Order of the Templars,
Yes.
which were sort of like a Germanic kind of like modernized version of the Teutonic Knights.
Right.
But I agree with you.
Yes.
Even about the Jesuits, they were even involved in editing Hitler's book, Mein
Right.
Kampf.
Okay. Like I've heard about that. Yeah, that it was written by a Jesuit or something. What's your info on that?
Well, no, it was written by Adolf Hitler and
Right.
Rudolf Hess together in the same hotel,
Right.
but it was edited by a Jesuit who was later mysteriously murdered.
Right. Okay.
So it's a very fun,
Must be
very
a coincidence,
fun.
Thomas. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the influence of the Knights Templars have never went away. I
Right.
think they're still the most powerful. I think with all these if you look at all these like big time globalists
Yes.
in the Council, they all have that kind of energy about them that's very kind of Knights Templar. I can't explain it.
I mean, there's and something more sort of like hands-on. There's links. I mean, I can send you. You can find stuff where you can see like massive, never-ending lists of all these people that are top, like media owners and stuff like that. Like Rupert Murdoch. Okay, he is a Knight of Malta. There's so many of these people that are Knights of Malta, like George Bush Senior, Knight of Malta, and that's directly connected with the Jesuit Knight Templar type of thing.
Yeah.
So there's something's going on there. I mean, the Zionists, I don't know, they're like placemen or something. They're using them as patsies. I don't know. What do you think of that? Are you okay to touch on that?
Yeah.
On that? Yeah.
I'll tell you what I feel about the Zionists. Now, when we talk about Zionists, we have to remember we're not just talking about Jews, because most of the Zionists in the world are actually Protestants.
Right. Yes.
But when I say Zion, when you talk about we'll bring it down to names like the Rothschild family and so on.
Yes.
They're just like administrators for a system.
Yes.
You understand? They were originally employed by the princes of Frankfurt.
Yes, exactly.
So they didn't start out on their own. They were hired consultants, and that's still going on to this day.
Yes.
For these aristocratic families, and it's as simple as that. They're just financial consultants for plans that are made somewhere else.
Yeah,
somewhere
they're kind of like middlemen, the middlemen of the actual guys that are behind this, like the royal / Jesuit Templar type of orders and
yeah, they're like fix-it men.
Yeah,
in the mafia.
Yeah, the rabbit hole goes deep, Thomas. I mean, every decade that goes past, we're discovering more and more. I feel that like that woman Karen Hughes, or Hudes, I don't know how to pronounce her surname. She's come out and she's outing the Jesuits now that are behind the Fed and everything, and apparently all the taxes from the IRS go straight to the Vatican and stuff like that. It's crazy, the stuff that could be happening behind the scenes, So,
we'll never know the full picture completely.
Yeah.
We can only guess. We can only see the shadow of it and determine what the shape of the beast is like.
Yeah, that's good. I like how you put that. Okay, well that's very interesting with the book. I'd like to check it out. Is that, and just before we go to the next part, there's obviously going to be a part 2 and 3? Yes.
Yeah, there might even be a part 4 and 5. It's just been such a.
Okay.
I have people. I'm having people contact me now. There was guys who were in the British Army, 2 guys separately who both guarded Rudolf Hess at Spandau Prison, and also a guy who's the grandson of a sound engineer who worked at the Nuremberg rallies, and he told me things his father told about how they use sound to manipulate people. So it's just growing and growing.
Yeah, so it's it's like Russian dolls, the more you uncover, the more it's amazing. Okay. Now, tell us, please, how it all began. Basically, your familiar story, because I've watched a couple of your YouTube interviews and stuff, and I've seen that familiar story you say about the psychos that you encountered when you worked in Wall Street, I believe.
Yeah.
In New York. Yeah, that's fascinating. I remember you were saying there was a guy that just randomly he comes up to you and said, I'm a psychopath, and he admitted it.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy, man. So what? How did that all?
Well. I'm the guy that should have never ended up in Wall Street. I came out like playing bands. I was like a working class guy from the north side of Dublin. I was not like someone that could ever enter that world. But I was good at illustrations and art, and I did a graphic design course. Okay. And just by sheer luck, I got into basically agencies that hire people, and I was in the right place at the right time, and so I found myself working for these Wall Street banks, and it was a great experience. But most of the people that work in these places are decent people. They're not like
Yes.
they're not fuck ups like we are. We're told they always are. They're just people trying to pay their bills.
Yeah.
But at a certain management level, you begin to encounter people, and they reminded me so much of any politicians I had met
Right.
previously.
Yes.
And I think the way to describe it would be, I saw a quote recently in the Observer newspaper in England about Moira Hindley and Ian Brady, who are two famous serial killers in England.
Yes.
And it said, one gets the impression that there's a gulf between these kinds of people and you that can never be breached.
Yes.
And that's how I felt about these guys.
Yes.
They gave me the creeps, like they would kill and what they would murder, but they wouldn't. They were just never right to me. And this one guy, I've told the story many times, but I think he was showing off, and he didn't think it would ever go any further, and it didn't really for years. It's just that I kept myself. But he announced that he had been tested as a psychopath, and he thought he was doing it in a trying to cool way. Like he was laughing at it.
Oh my God!
Like back then, nobody really knew what a psychopath was. He thought it was a max murderer, and he just basically was a rich white guy who basically robbed his family, and he just totally out of control. He had every advantage in life and behaved like a thug.
Yeah.
The usual rich psychopath story, like a George Bush Jr. kind of thing.
Yes.
And so that was how it started. And then I was like, when he said that, and when I started to find out about it, it was like one of those things that never left me. I was saying, there's something really important in all this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's how it began for me. That was about 1993-ish, I think.
Oh, okay.
And it'd been simmering in my mind ever since. But it answered a lot of questions to me about why the world could seem such a dangerous place at times.
Yeah.
And it also was very healing for me, because I bought into the whole idea that the human race was horrible and we were all naturally murderous and we used to start wars, and the human race is just a nasty piece of thing. But then when I started to understand the psychopaths and start looking at people in power, I started to realize, hey, it's not human beings that are in power.
No.
It's these psychopaths, and so that was it.
There's like that top 2% or whatever they are, and
yeah, whatever they are, but it's enough to make the world a much more happy place.
It's like poisoning a well, like they poison the whole the whole collective, and everyone behaves like we are like psychopaths by association. Like they give us, it's like a disease, they spread in society. That's all right. That's how I see it. I mean,
And the system is hardwired to put them in positions of authority.
Well, it's like dog eat dog society, and obviously the more ruthless you are, the more likely you get at the top. I mean, that's why all these politicians and stuff, they're the most psychopathic people of all. So
yeah, exactly, and the big business as well.
Yeah.
And even in big religion as well, like the Vatican and everything else.
Yes, and there's so many cults and things, in the new age movement. I mean, let's not start. I'll talk about the new age a bit later on, because it's both a pet hate of both of ours, I think.
Yeah, Mark Passio has covered that quite well.
Fascinating, the Mark Passio, the new age bullshit meme that he started. Yeah, it's that's why I started that group, that Mark Passio group, which we interact in there sometimes. But yeah, it's all very interesting. I think people are waking up now, like, to the deception of that,
Well, more people are, yeah.
Yes, they're starting to, I should have said.
Things are better now than they were like 10 years ago.
Right, yes. Because, I mean, the new age, I had it set as a question for later on, but the new age is pretty much, to me, and a lot of people like us that pretty much believe what we just mentioned now, it's like a Christianity 2.0, isn't it, Thomas? It's like people think, oh, well, I've taken the red pill and I've woken up, but it's like another control system, again, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we have to be very careful.
Yeah.
Even in the alternative or the awakened community, the same pitfalls and traps exist.
Yeah.
We must always be vigilant all our lives. I always say to people, look, take what I say in. What sticks with you, go with it. If it doesn't, that's cool as well. And that's the way we should do everything.
Well, it's exactly. You can't, you don't want to have personality cults running rampant all over the place. I mean, even in that Mark Passio group, I mean, it's ironic. I'm the guy that started it, out of like a pure fanboy love, you know what I mean. But even there, it was kind of like a little experiment for me to see to show me like a demographic, like a little pie chart of basically how the Passio fans behave. And I've noticed that there's like a cult of personality in you know, a certain percentage of people there are like, but Passio says this, but Passio says that, and you can't argue with them. It's like the same mentality as Christianity, as we were saying. Like they basically they just follow what it is, and without having their own independent thinking. And you know, even Passio himself, he would be horrified if he saw people doing that. You know?
Yeah, and these are very dangerous people to have around you, because they're the first ones who'll turn on you.
Exactly, exactly, because then they're going to find something else, and
Yes, exactly, and that's because they put all the hopes on something.
Yes,
and then if it doesn't provide that answer, they will turn on the person, even though the person did not ask them to be like that.
Yes, because they feel betrayed. They think, "Oh, you betrayed me because you were not the perfect guru, Jesus Christ, or whatever."
Yeah, just like the back to you posted something about David Icke. Now I have a lot of problems with David Icke, but I don't think he's a bad guy, or not that I've seen any proof. And I don't.
Okay, I wasn't going to go with the David Icke thing today, but okay.
No, I'm just saying that you posted something that I thought was very mature, and you said that the people who are attacking him the most are almost certainly the ones that worshipped him, that worshipped him unconditionally.
It's the people that. Mainly the people that were sort of, you know, woken up by him initially, they turn against him 5 years later or whatever.
Yeah, and they should just say, okay, I don't believe the stuff he's talking about. Now that's the end of it. If he's made, you know, that's why I refuse to let a personality cult develop around me. And if I see people even trying to do it, I'll tell jokes and kind of like belittle it. I'll make fun of myself. Even.
Like a self-deprecating humor type of thing.
Joke's way, because I do not want those kinds of people around me. I love having people who support my work and who you say I really like that. That's all wonderful stuff. And encourage me. But I do not. If I see any kind of groupie kind of mentality, and I mean real groupie, like I can do no wrong. I don't tell me no, Thomas.
Well, there is a kind of. I mean, I am technically one of your Facebook groupies as well, because you know, I follow like your posts, man. For people that don't know this guy, Thomas Sheridan, ladies and gentlemen, the most hilarious truther. I mean, I think you pretty much created the genre of truther comedy. I think it's funny because you combine. I mean, Vinny Eastwood kind of does the same thing, but you have your own style, like on your Facebook posts. They're funny, but also there's always like a very serious underlying message. It's not just only about jokes, but you know, it's a good thing. You know, you're just another one of the guys. You know, just friendly, and you don't have this arrogance about you that a lot of these other. You know, there's massive egos in our scene, Thomas. You know, like that's yeah.
I just know my limitations, and I love comedy, and I've grown up. You know, I've done stand up, and I love people like Richard Pryor and George Carlin and Eddie Murphy.
He was amazing.
All that stuff is so important to me in my life too. I mean, and that's and you'll often, it's very easy to get frightened and feel hopeless at some of the stuff we deal with in this alternative.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so a joke now and again is a great way to stop them from the monsters from taking you over.
Well, like you often say in interviews that I've heard, that basically your solution, your weapon against all this is humor. You know, laughter and humor.
Yeah, my catchphrase I always use is "fuck them if they can't take a joke." You know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because it's so important to have humor and to laugh and everything. And I think, I mean, there's I don't know if there's a saying or if I'm just making this up now or whatever, but you know, there's something like God or the angels, let's say, quote unquote, invented humor or laughter. I mean, you look at animals or whatever, they don't laugh. I mean, only humans. It's like, I think it's a sign of. It shows that a person is quite evolved if they can laugh at their own bullshit, you know, like the people that are very serious and everything, because there's a certain people in our scene that, you know, they're very cagey and they don't really talk to you, you know, they don't reply to messages, etc. I don't know if I can I'd rather trust a guy like you than someone that you know, you got to book a fucking appointment to have a chat with them on Facebook for 2 minutes, you know. It's like, I think, like taking yourself too seriously, it's not I don't think it's a good sign for a person. It's just not.
No, you're not that fucking important, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I'm probably. I don't know where I stand in the hierarchy of people in this movement, but I'm sure I'm in the top like 25%.
All right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You are. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, I still work a full time. I don't work. I work a part time job. I do other work, and I have a home life, and I still manage to talk to people. So it really is that difficult.
Yeah.
So these people say, I'll give you 2 minutes in 2027. They're just full of shit.
No, they're just bullshit. Yeah, like because they've already spent 5 hours playing PlayStation or whatever, but they haven't got time to speak to someone for 2 minutes.
Yeah, Like, if you put a profile pic of a good looking chick, they'd answer you in 10 seconds.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Okay, so we kind of did jump into a couple of stuff I was going to ask a bit later on. Like since you mentioned comedians, I'll jump to a further question I was going to ask later. Russell Brand, obviously you must love Russell Brand if you liked George Carlin, right? Tell us a little bit about your Russell Brand. I believe you're the only person in the universe, Thomas Sheridan, that outed Russell Brand before anyone else did. Tell us about that. And people were hating you and whatever. You wrote some article or what happened?
Yeah. Well, I didn't really out him. I've never found the guy that funny.
Yes.
I just always thought his humor was childlike. Okay.
Juvenile. Yeah.
Yeah. Bookie Wookie and all this crap. And so it's like, well, I'm a 4-year-old. So anyway. I mean, I wouldn't resent the guy for having a political or spiritual awakening. That's a good thing.
Yes.
But I mean, I was watching something. Yeah, he wrote an article about when Margaret Thatcher died. He wrote an article, allegedly a tribute to him in the Guardian newspaper. And I said to myself, he did not write that. Right. He does not have that level of intellectual ability. Yeah. It's somebody has written that on his behalf.
Yes.
And then I looked in to see who his girlfriend was, and his girlfriend, or I just looked at his social life. I mean, not to investigate the guy. I just says he's there's something happening with this guy. There's somebody working.
So your intuition, your spider sense said, something.
Yeah. There's something. When they start, it's like Bono. When they suddenly start changing, it's not on their own. And so, I says, his girlfriend is Jemina Khan. Okay, yes. Goldsmith family, billionaire bankers.
Yes.
Another Rothschild type setup. And then I looked forward, and she was the editor of the New Statesman magazine. And then I was like, oh my God, here we go.
Yes.
So I says, okay, so he's basically got a handler here called the girlfriend,
so
right?
There's that meme that's all over Facebook that those pictures, those series of pictures that connect her back to Jacob Rothschild, because the Goldsmiths or whatever you said intimately connected with the Rothschilds. Yeah.
Yeah, they're obsessed with reading with them for some reason.
Right.
But anyway, and then there's pictures of him with the Queen and all this stuff. Right. So then I left it at that, and then I was one night before I went to bed back in October 2013 or something like that.
Right.
Someone says, Thomas, you have to see this Russell Brand tearing Jeremy Paxman a new one on the BBC.
Right.
And I switched on. And I watched it. I said, he said nothing for starters, right? He said nothing no one had heard before. You could hear any politician saying the same kind of thing any night of the week on that show.
Yes.
And the whole thing was very staged to me. So right before I went to bed, I just typed, I found a picture of him and the Queen. And I wrote, Russell Brand isn't waking you up, he's just putting you back to sleep. Because that's what it seemed to me. It seemed to me they're trying to steal all the people who are waking up and bring them back into the mainstream.
Yes.
I went to bed, and when I woke up the next morning, my website crashed. The phone was ringing off the hook.
Holy crap.
The article had basically went supernova overnight.
Yeah.
And then I looked at all the comments underneath it, and I could not believe it. It was like I was public enemy number one.
So they drank liters of haterade on Thomas Sheridan. Oh my God.
It was just bizarre how quickly it happened. It was just it made no sense to me. Yeah. So then someone said to me, "Why'd you hate him?" I says, "I don't know the man. He could be a nice guy. I'm not going to hate him. Yes. I'm just telling you that I'm not falling for this whole thing of that he's a revolutionary leader."
Yes.
And then Henry Pound, and I said, "Look, I'm not going to talk about the guy being a junkie, and I'm not bringing his personal life in it because it's his personal life. Yes. I'm bringing it in because of the New Statesman connections."
Yes.
And so I kind of got away with it after that because people said there's quite a lot of people says, at first I was kind of annoyed at it, but now the way you explained it makes an awful lot of sense.
Right. Yeah.
So it wasn't a result of malice or anything like that. I mean,
it's
if
just
I met,
you just go into it intuitively. You thought something's wrong, and you just followed your
yeah,
gut, I guess. Yeah.
and it wasn't just Russell Brand. I have to
Right.
make that clear. It's
Okay.
people putting their faith in him. And my attitude has always been from day one, as you know yourself, the only one who can save your own ass is yourself. There are
Yes.
no saviors.
Yes.
None.
Yes. That's why the
And
thing with the New Age movement and everything, they have all this bullshit about the Galactic Federation of Light is going to come. We've been waiting for those ships for like 50 years now. I mean, they're probably still in the Galactic Mechanic or something that we're still waiting. The whole thing is just this Messiah thing. Everyone's looking for some Messiah to
yeah.
come, and it's sickening. Yeah.
And if you put your faith in something in the future, it stops you from working on the here and now.
Exactly. So that's why also, I mean, we could open another can of worms here and talk about psychics and psychic readings and things. I mean, why would you want to know your future? Like you said, because
Yeah.
you should stay in the present, as the Buddhists say,
Yeah.
and just work on the present. Yeah. Okay, now this is something pretty esoteric. I mean, maybe I haven't heard all your interviews on YouTube, but I think I haven't heard this one mentioned very often. I mean, you will tell me now if that's the case or not, but it's that fascinating, bizarre story about that rich heiress type woman. You went into this house, this music executive or something when you were young,
Yeah.
and she was like something out of the Addams Family and like a Satanist type of. And she was trying to tell you to change your image and whatever, and then you refused, and 2 or 3 years later, bands like Guns N' Roses and Poison, etc., came out that were exactly what she was telling you, like in '85 and whatever, and this was like 3 or 4 years before. So basically, it's saying that everything is pre-planned in the music industry and whatever by these families. Who was this woman and what happened?
Well, I don't know who she is, but I could tell you the whole story in a nutshell.
Mm.
I was about 19. I'd just arrived in New York, and I landed on my feet and met this young guy who was the same age as me, a young punk rocker a Chinese-American guy called Eddie Luke.
Okay.
And the two of us immediately hit off as mates. Alison says, "Yeah, we'll get like a band together, something noisy."
Yes.
We like stuff like the Misfits and Black Flag, and it was that kind of idea to do something like that.
Yes.
And that's what we were both into. And I like Motorhead as well, so a bit of that as well. So
cool. Yeah, you're a bit of a metalhead, aren't you, Thomas? We were talking about Black Sabbath once on a Facebook post. Yeah.
Traditional metal. I like the new wave of British heavy metal, and I like that stuff. Yeah.
That's the best stuff. Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Like I like the original Iron Maiden before Bruce Dickinson came in, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, what you call it? So he was a very kind of confident, forward guy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And through a series of someone, he'd met this woman who was apparently an agent, a promoter, whatever.
Yes.
And he said, we go down and meet her, and she wants to look at us. Which was kind of weird, right?
I mean, even that phrase is weird. It's like, what do you mean, look at us? Yeah.
So the meeting, not the meeting, it was casual and kind of formal at the same time.
So you went to a house, yes, like to a man.
No, it was like a speakeasy kind of thing. It was like it's like somewhere in the lower east side, like Alphabet City part of New York.
Okay, yes.
Like like the gangs of New York part of New York. Down there, right? And it was a club, a kind of a nightclub / I don't know, music place underneath a brownstone building. But the thing was, the time we went there at, it must have been 3 a.m.
Right.
and the place was packed.
Okay.
And there was a full kind of like party scene happening inside this place.
Okay.
And we go in, and it's very, very instantaneously. I felt quite frightened, and I have to say, very, very out of my depth.
Right.
Like that age, and you're out of your depth, and just know you can look cool to make you believe you are anything. And I felt immediately very far from home and well out of my depth. And it was it was just like a New York freak kind of scene, but kind of very dark. It was a very dark end of it. And
so you felt a very unsettling vibe, let's say.
Very much.
Yes.
Very much.
Yes.
And so you go over to the woman, and she looked. He went over, and he'd already met her at some place. Okay. And she goes, "Well, we're here now. Can you help us develop as a band?"
Yes.
And she looked us up and down like we were specimens, like insects. So she was probably psychopathic.
Oh my God,
She
yeah.
stank of money. She stank of old money.
Yes.
And she said, "Look," she says, listen. I'll be honest with you two guys right now. The big thing is going to be heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
Grow your hair, get a perm, do bend over if you're asked, and I will have you in the gardens, meaning Madison Square Gardens, in 12 months.
Oh God.
And I didn't even understand at the time really what she was talking about, and he needed a hig. So we came out afterwards, and I was like, metal's finished. It's like, it'll always be like
an underground.
Yeah, it'll always be Priest, always be Iron Maiden, but there's not going to be a kind of a revival of it. It's like it's already happened.
Yes.
And so, sure enough, within 6 months, you were seeing all these lipstick bands,
twisted bands. Yeah. Oh my God.
Poison, Cinderella.
Yeah, all that crap. Which all of them are shit. But really, pardon the French, but apart from Guns N' Roses, the other ones that didn't have quality music. Yeah.
Oh, stupid. Poison, garbage. It's pop music anyway. Just was bad pop music.
Horrible.
Horrible. Or else it's a really bad revision of kind of 70s glam rock.
Exactly. Yeah. Like rehash.
Slade, but they're not as good as them. They'll never be Slade. Like it's the sound or the sweet.
Yeah.
And so, and then I saw Dee Snider on Long Island with his red Ferrari and stuff like that.
That's the Twisted Sister, the singer of Twisted Sister, guys. If anyone,
but I'm just saying it panned out exactly.
But it's like what she said was prophetic, pretty much. Yeah.
And then I realized the music business pop music and rock music doesn't happen by trends.
Right.
It's actually planned like a business strategy.
Yes.
And he was only being honest with us.
So, okay, now I was thinking maybe they have some agenda with all this music, but a bad one. Like, what do you think? Like, you look at, for instance, especially nowadays with the rap video clips and stuff, like you look at all that, let's call it Illuminati symbolism in them, all those pyramids and this and that and all this overt sexual imagery. What do you think? Do you think there's like a malevolent agenda with these like bloodline top families that sort of are controlling the industry? What? Because you were basically like that story you told us is like you're an insider. It's like an inside scoop of So do you think there must be some malevolent, something's wrong there? Because the lyrics and the imagery, none of it is positive. I mean, the youth, the young people listening to this crap,
Well, I can tell you what happened with the heavy metal thing. I can tell you exactly what happened with that. If you look at photographs of metal bands from like 1980, whether it's Judas Priest, whether it's Iron Maiden, they're kind of like hard ass looking guys that would kick the shit out of you.
Yes, like Vikings, Yes.
Yeah, and it was very much a macho, male, working class. Don't fuck with me.
Yeah.
Because that's how those guys really were. They really did come from the poor neighborhoods.
Exactly.
Or like in Australia, bands like Rose Tattoo, they really came out of the slums. Okay, and so that was a terrifying image in a world run by psychopaths who are terrified of the warrior coming back.
Yes.
And the early heavy metal screamed, like you said, the Viking, the warrior coming back.
Yes.
And a whole generation of young people being influenced by tough, hard working class guys was terrifying.
Right.
So they feminized it, and that's what that was about.
That's a very interesting, it's a fascinating way to look at it. Yeah. Right, that's gonna. I don't want to go on that tangent. I could be talking about that for 3 hours now, but I will think about it definitely later on. Wow. But what about in general? Like, what about? I mean, look at Justin Bieber, for instance, your favorite artist. The quality of the music. I mean, because we're both musicians, man. I mean, I haven't had the extraordinary success you've had. I never really made it. Playing live or anything or making a CD, but like you, I studied engineering and I quit as well to become a rock star. But we're musicians, so we look at things like Justin Bieber and it's horrifying. I mean, what the fuck? Pop never used to be this horrible in the 70s or 80s. What do you think? Why is it so bad, do you think?
I just don't understand it. I can't figure it out. Right. It's almost like they're trying to destroy pop and rock music by making it as horrible as possible and as meaningless to people's lives as possible. I don't know why.
I think you will agree with this, that the level of culture of a society or a civilization shows where that civilization is at. I mean, you look at you look at the TV shows they have today. You look at this music, the Justin Biebers of the world, and you're like, oh Christ, you know, the Western civilization is on its way out, man. I mean, if this is what we're producing, for God's sake, you know, something's just not right, Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's not by accident either, because
right.
I mean, there's still plenty of brilliant young bands around playing all kinds of music, from ska to metal to hip hop. You will never hear them on the radio or see them on TV.
But they're not promoting it. They're deliberately not promoting them as much. Yeah.
No, because they want. It's just this is what Simon Cowell, these monsters, have done to music.
Yeah.
Like I was watching, you know, this X Factor thing. This has been the main sort of weapon of destruction of culture. Like I was watching the Australian. You're down under, right? I was watching the Australian version of that.
Yes.
And they had that guy from Westlife, Brian McFadden, was on it. The Irish boy band singer, right? Guy has absolutely no talent. Was just in a boy band, like a typical boy band, monkey in a suit. And here he is putting a talent contest, right?
Yeah.
And so showed one video where I think he's like a Chinese or Asian kid, comes on this Australian X Factor or whatever, and he can't really sing. And there's Brian McFadden hiding his face, laughing at him. And I'm looking at this asshole, and I'm saying to myself, you have no more talent than that you're laughing at.
Like, why the hell are you laughing? Yeah.
And the only difference, the reason why you're famous and he isn't, is because you probably did something that he wouldn't in a million years do.
Oh God, I hope you're not saying what I think. Anyway, yeah. Well,
leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh God, the adults that are listening will probably know what we just meant then. Now, next. The Djinn thing is a very fascinating. I've noticed on Facebook a couple of times recently that you've been talking. Your newest thing has been, you know, you've gotten more into the supernatural sort of element of like cause of psychopathy, let's say, or supernatural counterpart. And you know, I mean, you can call it the Djinn, the Archons, the Reptilians, whatever. What can you say about that? Like, I was pleasantly surprised, because I thought, like, you know, when I first met you, you were sort of saying, you know, I'm, you know, not looking at the supernatural element of it. You were being kind of conservative with that. But it's a very fascinating connection to make, that it all stems from, like, some kind of parasitical mind or whatever we can call it. So, Thomas Sheridan, you have the floor.
Well, every human experience is valid. That's the way I see it. Whether it be a material human experience, whether it be an emotional, a psychological, a spiritual, a magical, or a horrific or a beautiful. Every human experience is valid. And they exist for a reason, okay? And that includes the supernatural experiences.
Yes.
And even if you don't believe in them, you have to accept that you have a relationship to or even approaching them, okay?
Like that saying of one of those guys, Aristotle or Plato or someone, that says, you know, it's a mark of an educated mind, you know, for someone to entertain an idea that, you know, he wouldn't necessarily believe or whatever. But you have to have an open mind, basically, to accept an idea that you might think is not true, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And what happened with me, the psychopath thing, is I had studied every scientific and neurological thing behind it, to the point where when people would ask me what causes or makes a psychopath, and I would say, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
You hit a dead end when you only look at the
You know, there's no hard proof of genetic, because there's lots of families where a psychopath comes out of the blue, or there's families where you have psychopathic individuals, parents, and they have normal kids.
Yes,
it's like I could not explain it. So, and there are anomalies within the brain, like that show up in but they're not broken or damaged brains.
Yes.
They have a hyperactive reptilian complex, but it's not that's a bigger or it's more powerful. It's almost like the brain is just using the hardware, the underlying consciousness software needs.
Yes.
Now, anyone who's had a personal experience with a psychopath, and I've had a few, not for many years now, I have to say, thank God, but I've had a few, and I've looked into their eyes at times of intense stress,
Right.
and what's looking back at me was not a human
It's
being.
not a human, yeah. I mean, it's so the truest say. It has to be the truest saying of all time when they say that, the eyes are the window to the soul. They definitely are. You can tell
Yeah,
so
absolutely
many
are. Yeah,
things. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it's like I see the eyes, our physical eyes, as being sort of like portals or windows, like literally. That's why that's why that saying exists, because it's like something about it. Like when somebody's possessed or something, you can see it in their eyes. Like,
yeah. I totally,
yeah,
I'm down
yeah,
with
yeah,
that. You
yeah,
don't
yeah. Yes.
now. Then I started to look at a sort of a supernatural framework
Yes.
that could possibly be with the psychopathic thing could be in. The Archons was an interesting one. I have to say, there's very interesting ideas and elements behind that.
Yes.
But it was a very incomplete canon because it really was just basically Gnostics about
Yes.
1900 years ago and not
Yes.
much else.
Yes.
So and
That's
you
true.
had nothing else really other than that. So fair enough, it was still a good way to go. I
Okay.
looked at things like you had like the Nagas in India,
Yes.
and you had all kinds of reptilian and lion creatures, and all in all kinds of cultures, from Gaelic to Slavic to you name it, they're all there, right?
Yes.
But then I started to, I found a magazine article about diamonds, and they said that many Islamic countries women will not wear diamonds because a
Okay.
diamond contains a jinn
Oh,
on
wow.
in
Wow.
and then I said, well, I've heard about this Djinn, and I know it's the origin of the term genie. What does it mean? So
Yes.
I got a book called The Vengeful Djinn by Rosemary Ellen Guiley, and I looked up a few other books as well.
Mm.
And suddenly it was all falling off the page right there and then
Okay.
that
Wow.
The Islamics had this idea that there was another form of consciousness on this planet, and it's not that different than the Celtic or the Gaelic Irish thing
Right.
of the fairies.
Yes.
And if you look at the Irish archive of the fairies, they're nothing like Tinkerbell. They're not benevolent. They're extremely malevolent.
Right.
And my ancestors lived in terror of the fairies.
Right.
And the same story applies with the Djinn. They're a non-human consciousness,
Yes.
and some elements within that consciousness despises humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have the ability to take on forms and
Right.
trick us.
Okay.
So they can appear as a person, they can appear as a black cat, they can appear as a UFO in the sky,
Yes.
they can appear as a ghost.
Wow. Oh, wow. It's
And
amazing. So I had no idea you took it to that level. Like, do you talk about this type of thing in your book as well?
not really.
Oh, okay.
You see, I don't. Well, the second book, Defeated Demons, has a chapter on the supernatural aspects, possibilities of the psychopath. So I do touch on it,
Yes.
but it's like I have to approach my work very, very slowly
Right. Okay.
because there's an element of responsibility there. If I was to suddenly run out and say it's this, that, and the other, and I was proven wrong,
Yes.
it would.
Yes.
I could hurt a lot of people who were like might believe that, that kind of thing. So I have a responsibility to make sure I'm very careful
Well,
in
if
my
you
words.
do that, you'll just become best buddies with David Icke and just start hanging out with him and doing tours together. I'm just teasing you now. Well, this is incredible because this stuff is just, oh man, you blew me away with saying that basically it's like this entity that can take any. This sounds so much like. Kind of like the agents. Are you a big fan of the Matrix trilogy? It's like the agents from the Matrix, like they can come in and possess people and take different forms. And, I mean, they're pretty much showing us the truth in those types of films.
And if you look at every single folklore tradition, there's a story of a non-human consciousness that enters into the human body and does harm to human society.
Yes.
And so, but the Djinn just happens to be the one that's the most well developed and written, and still very highly accepted at this day and age.
They've worked it out. The Muslims they know their stuff with the Jinn, don't they? They've worked it out.
Yeah, well, they've had 1,500 years and they're still going to do it.
Right.
So it's not just like they stopped 1,500 years ago. They've been developing it non-stop ever since, and so.
I've studied it a little bit, like I think in parallel to you for about a year now. I've sort of been looking because from a different perspective, because I'm very interested in the occult and all that. So I've got a bunch of occultist friends on Facebook who are involved in these things. But they're interested in the Jinn, and a lot of them think that they're actually good entities, or you can work with them and make pacts with them and this and that. And I'm trying to figure out what the Djinn are on my own as well. I have understood until now, up to this point, that they're basically like they're, as you said, like they're a separate entity, a consciousness to us, and we're kind of sharing this planet. We're kind of like competing for this planet, let's say, and they're like, they don't see us as enemies, but they've got their own agenda, and some of them are malevolent, as you said, and we can make deals and pacts with them, and that's where all these stories about making pacts with spirits and things are. So is that how you see the Djinn? Like if you were to define Djinn, what would you say they are? Because I haven't got a clue really. I wouldn't be able to define.
Well, what the Muslims called them was beings of smokeless fire, which means to me was such plasma or something like that.
Like but they're kind of ethereal, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a world exclusive here, okay?
Cool.
And you've taken me places that no one else usually asks me questions about.
Yes. Is that good?
Are
you enjoying
yes.
that fact?
Very good. Very good. I'll give you a world exclusive. I've never spoke to anyone on the radio about before. There is an ancient ruined building not far from here, about 10 miles away, that was a former stately home mansion that belonged to an aristocratic family. And in the 1930s or 20s, sorry.
Could you tell us their name, or do you not know it, or you don't want to mention them?
What I'll do is I will give you an article you can post to it, so you can read it yourself.
Okay.
But
okay.
This place is called Lishian House. Okay. What makes this so significant is that one of the people who lived there brought back lots of artifacts from the Middle East.
Right. Okay.
Was known to be conducting what they called magic rituals in the area inside that.
Okay.
What happened afterwards was basically a psychic firestorm. The house went into the most incredible poltergeist activity. The staff lived there anymore. The family vacated after, quote unquote, the devil arrived one night. And then the house, a beautiful stately home, fell into ruin. Well, I went and visited the house a few times, and I can absolutely tell you that there's something. The Djinn are in there.
There's something there. You can feel it. Yeah. Wow.
The stones were flying off the top of the building trying to hit me and things like that.
You saw that? Oh my God.
I'll give you the links when I have them. But also one of the things I did is I built a recording device using a symbol that I was told is a sigil that the Djinn are attracted to.
Yes.
I put it inside a glass jar with a sealed microphone and a digital recorder. I have recorded sounds in that building.
Holy shit.
If I was to play them here now, and I'm not ready to put them on the air yet in case it's damaging or something,
right?
But they confirmed to me that there are things outside our perception that are far more. And this house is testimony both in its destruction and its history, as well as what's going on there now. There's all bizarre graffiti all over the wall. The house is brought to my attention when I was told that black magic rituals were still being performed there, and so that's why I went to check it out. But
performed. That's very interesting. Who do you think would be performing the rituals? Are just random people or high level Illuminati satanic type of groups? What do you think?
I don't know, but there are quite a few satanic cults in this part of the country, so it might be one of them. But don't ask me who's in them, and I won't even go near them.
Right,
but
fair enough.
They could be big shots. They could be just ex-heavy metal heads who got into that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, those people are so silly that do that anyway. Okay, wow, that's oh my God. Okay, now speaking of all that satanic scum, etc. Jimmy Savile, another very good friend of yours and mine. We love Jimmy Savile, don't we? I mean, what is it with? I mean, how have I written it here? Birds of a feather flock together. Thomas Sheridan. I mean, look at him. His connections with the Queen and everything, and they were protecting. They were covering up for him, weren't they? I mean, it's unbelievable.
Oh, it's an incredible story.
It's unbelievable.
It's hard to even believe that it exists.
Yes.
It's real. And yes, it is, and it's all so well documented, and it's just getting deeper and darker. Yes. I don't only believe he was a notorious paedophile. I actually believe he was a serial killer, and he was definitely involved in one of the Yorkshire Ripper murders. A woman called Irene Richardson, who was found dead literally at the back of his apartment in Leeds.
Did they know that she was found dead at the time behind his apartment?
Yeah.
Well, Okay.
No, they knew this, and he was a suspect of the police at the time.
Oh
The
my God!
police.
So they must have covered it up for sure.
Well, they threw, according to David A. Yallop in his book, Beyond, Deliver Us from Evil, sorry, it's the
Right.
title of the book.
Right. No worries.
He was an investigative journalist on the ground while it was going on.
Right.
And he said South and West Yorkshire police were deliberately throwing the investigation into absolute chaos, possibly to hide a second person.
They kept putting walls up. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. It's like you hear very similar stories, you know, like I think, I don't know if this is confirmed, but the John Benet Ramsey story and all this other stuff where, you know, they were trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So many detectives, and they kept, like, somebody from high up, you know, was blocking the investigation, like in this case. I mean, it happens everywhere. Yeah. I haven't seen you discuss this thing at all, but I was just curious about the human sacrifice stuff that we hear about a lot, that, you know, the George Bush seniors and the popes and all these people are involved with. And, you know, you must have seen it on Facebook, like that guy Kevin Annett, that's doing the, you know, the ninth, I think it's called the Ninth Circle group, that they sacrifice children, and the popes are involved. Do you think this is very widespread, like it's an epidemic proportions? I certainly do.
I honestly don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yes.
But a good insight into why it could be happening. Yes. I'm not going to name names because we just don't know.
Yes.
But Dennis Wheatley was a British author who wrote phenomenal horror books back in the 60s and 50s.
I think I've heard of the name, yeah.
Yeah, it's two of his most famous ones are To the Devil a Daughter and The Devil Rides Out. Okay. And I'm absolutely The Devil Rides Out is the same usual story of wealthy aristocrats. Of course, they were fiction at the time. Yes. But this guy was heavily involved in the occult bureau to try and take out Adolf Hitler during the war. Right. So this guy was more than just a fiction writer. He knew stories of what was going on in these rich families.
So you reckon it's like a fictionalized version of stuff he
Yeah, well, you know, you also know how black magic works. They have to kind of tell you the truth, and you have to accept it.
Yes.
So what better way to do it than to make books and movies about it and then claim it's just fiction?
Yes.
And so anyway, The Devil Rides Out is about the usual story: rich aristocrats sacrificing young girls in homes, mind control, all the usual things, and the devil
stuff. Yeah.
Exactly, and to the devil a daughter. Even more terrifying. It was a horrific film. It's very good about basically satanic sex, SECT, as within the Catholic Church.
Yes,
basically performing horrific rituals to create a kind of a satanic energy within Catholicism.
Yes. Well, I know this is completely crazy. I mean, the people that listen to that, watch my channel and these similar types of things, that would watch your videos, of course, you know, they already agree with these things, but, you know, the average person listening to this is like, what the hell are these people talking about? But, you know, the truth is much stranger than far stranger than fiction, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, look, I could be talking, you know, we could have like a entire interview just about this one, so I'll stop there with that. But I was interested to get your take on the deadly virus of cultural Marxism, which I've seen your posts recently about that, and I'm always liking them and agreeing. I agree 1,000% that cultural Marxism, you know, it's a massive problem, and feminism as well, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, feminism is tied in with that. It's kind of a corollary. It's pretty much similar. So what do you think? I mean, this is awesome because I couldn't wait to talk to Thomas Sheridan so we can hang shit on feminism. So women that are not truthers are going to hear this and going to say, oh, what are they talking about? But, you know, the legit women that I know and that you would know on Facebook, the good women, are always anti-feminists, aren't they, Thomas? I mean, they realize that it's just a division thing. Yeah. I mean, making them hate men, it's ridiculous. I mean,
I'd go further than that. I'd say I don't think I've ever met a feminist that was a decent human being.
Yes. I mean, that's an extreme statement, but I would have to agree, yeah.
You know, I'm sure there are very nice ones, but the ones that I've met personally are with hatred. Yeah. There's something seriously wrong with them in terms of they dehumanize not only men but themselves and other women too.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that they're psychopathic or secondary psychopaths.
No, they're brainwashed.
They kind of have that thing close to having that kind of vibe, that psychopathic type of mindset. Yeah, yeah.
A lot of them have no decency. The no decency based on the fact that they've dehumanized themselves and other people in order to bring in dogma.
Yeah.
So they're like religious fanatics, and that's what
it
cultural
is.
Marxism
It
is
is.
like.
It's
I've never met a member. I've never met a member of, say, the Socialist Workers' Party who's a decent. I've never met. Oh, here's a good one for you. I have never met a person who is involved in anti-Nazi stuff, who openly involved in, like, you know, that whole kind of anti-Nazi crusade, who was any better a human being than any Nazi. They were filled with just as much hatred themselves.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's why, and like I said earlier, I mean it's the ultimate irony, me criticizing the very group, that Mark Passio group. And for anyone listening, I will have links and stuff at the bottom, but it's called, what's it called again? New Age Bullshit, the Mark Passio database. If you've never heard of him before, whatever, check it out. But I kind of do, as you said, when you said the anti-Nazi groups, it's similar. That one is like it attracts all the anti-New Age people. But sometimes I would say, I don't know, maybe a fifth of them, maybe 20% of them, or whatever, some arbitrary percentage, they kind of act as bad as, you know, as the New Agers do. Like, the New Agers are like very vague. You can never get a straight answer from these fucking people. It's like, oh, and the spirits told me this, and but like you never. I made a post a couple of days ago about something in one of these groups that I'm in, and I didn't get an answer, and I just deleted the post. But then the New Age bullshit people, the ones that are against the New Age, that congregate in that Passio group, they are, I think, sometimes they kind of border on being overly intellectual, like being too pragmatic. You know what I'm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I'm trying to. I mean, I think I'm a Jedi. I'm trying to find that. As much as possible, I want to balance. Like I try to achieve that balance, if I may say so myself. But it's very difficult to find people that are equally, you know, they balance their intellect and intuition at the same time, and they kind of don't go to one extreme or the other, you know. So what do you think is a solution to that, Thomas? I mean,
it's the same thing I've been saying for years, that the truth is not a destination, it's a journey.
Right.
And,
I love that.
You know, and that's it, and that's the end of it. And being wrong is okay, and being right is great. But ultimately, if you're fixed on an absolute roadmap with an absolute signpost that you must follow, well, you're not on a good place. You're not in a healthy place.
Yes.
We're just look. The way I see it is, we're all floating down the same stream towards the ocean, and you know, it doesn't matter if you grab onto a branch on one side of the river bank and hold on for a while. It's not going to stop the river from flowing.
Yeah.
So my attitude,
I love that.
is just let go of the branch and see where the river takes you.
Yeah. So with the New Age thing, I want to tie in the New Age thing with your idea that I've noticed in a couple of posts, and I don't know if it relates to your book, but something about how every race, and you're talking about the Europeans specifically, we have like an innate natural need to connect like with our own ancestral gods and so forth, like myths and things like that. Like, and it's similar, like, you know, Ireland has got its own climate and Greece has got its own climate and blah, blah, blah. So everyone is used to their own climate and their language and their upbringing. And I think you were trying to say that also the myths and the gods, quote unquote, and everything should also be part of that package. Like, it's actually a healthy thing to you know, worship, quote unquote, your own myths. Let's say, if we could use the word worship. I mean, what can you say about that? Because you were saying the New Age was like, you know, largely Buddhist and Hindu based. You know, the New Age philosophers, of course, are like Buddhist and not Gnostic type of. Thing. So what's your take on, like, so should Europe have like a kind of revival of the, I don't know, like, should I be like studying up on Zeus more or whatever because I've got like a half Greek background? Or what do you think? I think it's a good thing. I think it's healthy. Yeah, I agree.
I think our archetypes are regional, and I think and the cultural and that stuff is wired to our DNA from thousands of years.
Yes,
we have genetic and ancestral memories built into our beings.
Yes,
and it's, I cannot relate to Christianity. I cannot relate to any Middle Eastern religion.
Yes.
I'm not against them. I just can't relate.
No, not in a racist, or, you know, God forbid, they throw the anti-Semite card on us. But like, it's, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
It works in the Middle East. Good for them.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm much more excited when I hear about Nordic or Teutonic or Celtic or Gaelic.
Yes.
I feel a real connection to all
Yes.
those things because that's my ancestors.
Yes.
Just like your ancestors would be the same thing in Greece,
Yes.
if that's where you're from, and
Yes.
that's all. That's all
Yes,
cool
well,
because
I've had, I mean, this is a little bit of a top secret thing, but I'll give people a little bit of a spoiler. I do have a Greek upbringing, like brought up in a fully Greek environment and lived in Greece as well as a teenager for a time in Athens, the great Athens, which is not, doesn't look so great, but it's got a great history, I guess. But I am only 50%, like I'm half Scottish, actually. But and that's a comes out very strongly, like my Scottish, my sarcasm, the humor, and everything. But I do know what you mean. Like you cannot escape genetics, and it's not like a Nazi, like a racist thing. It's like, oh, my genes. It's actually
oh,
it's reality. It's reality, isn't it?
you don't think you're better than someone else because
Yeah,
your ancestry
yeah,
is
yeah,
Greek, Irish,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
French, Japanese, whatever. Once you
yeah,
don't think you're better,
yeah.
once you just think this works best for me, I'm going to roll with it.
Exactly. That's pretty much what we're saying. I mean, not that I don't want to do the Judeo-Christian religions because their origin is from the Middle East. I mean, a lot of people that are not really truthers and don't sort of understand what we're talking about, they're going to think, oh, that's like, because you know how it is. Like they throw around the anti-Semite accusation like it's nothing, don't they? And by the way, I I wanted to sort of touch on. I sort of added this in last second here. All this negativity prevalent on Facebook, Thomas. I mean, I know occasionally you always, sometimes you come out randomly and say, oh, there's going to be shitload of blockings today. I can feel the energy. Like, I mean, you always talk about how you block so many people that the negative type of psychopathic type of element, and you're like, just walk away, just block them, fuck it, I mean, but why is there so much? Like, even I'm like not even at 1% of the level that, I mean, as well known as you are at the moment. And I haven't written a book or anything. I just basically am the super admin guy. I've got like dozens of groups and stuff. Basically, that's how I'm known on Facebook. Even me, they've accused me already of being a Zionist agent and the Knight Templar agent. Like, I'm not kidding. It's crazy. What do you think?
Oh, it's mental. It's mental. It's mental.
Why do you think people accuse like all these, like, everyone's a shill suddenly?
I know, and I have to say, I want to congratulate you for handling the Nazis on your group very well.
Shit.
There was an invasion of your group.
Yes.
They think they think that people who are going through a sort of a crisis are easy pickings.
Yes.
Yeah, so like that, and I must say you handled that very well. It was very refreshing because there's a lot of Nazi fanboys showed up in the alternative movement recently, and I have to laugh.
You know what happened? Sorry to interrupt. You know what happened? It's because, and I don't know if you saw it, but I made a post in that New Age bullshit group, like I think even just a few hours ago, yesterday or whatever. It was, and it just dawned on me literally when I wrote it. I thought, guys, it dawned on me that the reason this group went downhill in the past month is because during that horrible Gaza conflict a month ago or so, we kind of, even that group has got nothing to do with, pointing the finger to, it's the Jesuits, it's the Jews, it's this and that, it's the reptiles. But Thomas, we kind of got caught into the whole, anti-Zionism, and because it was horrible. We were seeing children being killed and stuff. So I suppose I attracted, because I made a lot of posts about that, and my inner, anti-Rothschildism, notice I didn't say anti-Semitism, came out. And I guess I attracted, I attracted some of these people that are into that. And now, so that's what happened with that. But I shut it down now. So, none of this neo-Nazi bullshit anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you're right to do that. And emotions are running very high during that awful Gaza period.
Yes.
And so, I mean, the thing is to point out that, like, you don't use the murders of. I don't mean you. I mean in people.
No, yeah,
other
you.
people.
One, yeah.
Yeah. The murders of innocent people in Gaza to
attack another.
Exactly,
another group,
because it's like because I know there's plenty of Israelis who are no more happy about that.
Yes.
Than there's lots of Americans who hate what the Americans do.
Yes.
It's just that ordinary people don't have any political power in this world.
Yes. And speaking of that, I'm an eternal optimist, and I think there's hope. But what do you think about that, by the way? This political power thing. We have the Rothschilds and the related families that basically own 75% of the wealth. I mean, this is confirmed, wealth of the entire planet. And they basically have politicians in their pockets and all this. So what do you think is a way out, Thomas? I mean, it looks like almost, I mean, on the one hand, you could say it's hopeless, but then...
do you want me to be completely honest with you? I think the future is quite grim for people like us.
Yeah.
I don't see any hope or any great awakening in terms of the getting better.
Yeah.
I think there's lots of things to be quite concerned about. The main one is transhumanism. They're basics, and you see things like Common Core being rolled out in the education system, where they're changing children. Coupled with that, we do have the growth of sort of like religious fundamentalism. That is real as well, you know.
Yes, that's completely insane.
And Christians and everything. Yeah. And so my attitude is, oh, thank God I'm awake.
Yes.
And that's good enough good enough for me, because I can now devote my life to things that will make my life interesting and hopefully help others.
And the more you to use the Matrix analogy, the more you take off the red pill, let's say, the more you get unplugged from the Matrix, because every year we become, we learn more and more, blah, 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 meet more people in the scene, and you sort of become more entrenched in that red pillar, let's say, thing. The more the other people that are not awake, the sheeple, let's call them, the derogatory sheeple term, the more they look like almost like two separate species, don't they? Like, I don't want to be seen as an elitist here now by saying this, but seriously, I'm sure you feel the same. I just cannot relate, like, even to family members and stuff that don't understand this stuff. Like, the next time I see a person that tells me they believe the official 9/11 story, like, you feel like you want to punch them almost. I mean, I still can't believe there are people that haven't woken up, because, you get involved with people that are only at your level, and especially on Facebook, like, we're constantly always talking to people like that, and it's like you almost forget that there's another world out there of sleeping people, and you think, oh my God. I had no idea how fucked up it was in the real world out there. So, I mean, but don't you see, like, that there's a sort of an awakening that's happening, that's growing a bit every year, more and more? I mean, even if it's slow.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree. Yeah. That's where the hope lies.
Yeah,
but
I guess.
My attitude is that it's like they've wiped out every native indigenous people on this planet.
Yes.
What chance us, And so my attitude is like, I think it's fantastic people are waking up, and that's wonderful. It's enough by itself.
Yeah.
If there was a kind of a great change, that would be beautiful to see happen.
Yeah.
But I have to be honest with you. I think holding out for a great awakening is not it's rooted in the same thing as waiting for Jesus to come or the alien. You have to be careful not to fall into that trap in a different guise.
It's like when you were saying, when you were just saying, like not waiting for a great massive thing to happen, blah blah blah. I just got the word anarchy in my mind when you were saying that. I thought, all these anarchist type of people that you see on the Facebooks and everything that are, in our scene, it's like they seriously, some of these posts and comments you see from these people, like they honestly believe that we're going to have anarchy next week or something. I mean, have they looked out their window lately? Have they seen the state of 95% of the rest of humanity? I mean, people are not ready for anarchy. I mean, anarchy would be great. It really would. Like, but maybe.
Yeah.
But maybe in 100 years. Maybe in 100 years. Maybe not now.
Yeah, it takes time. Nothing happens overnight. But again, people are encouraged to put their hopes and faith in everything except themselves. And the ultimate message of my work is only you can save your own ass, and that's reward enough alone.
Yes. Exactly. We're our own saviors. I mean, and even any whatever, call them guru or religious figure, even like Jesus, if he was a historical, I don't know, but if he never said, start a religion in my name. Like the Mark Passio example I keep bringing over and over, that group was a fantastic experiment for me, like in hindsight. Like in the beginning I just started it randomly, just almost from an intuitive type of thing. It's just this thing in my head, like, I'll start a group. So that's how that happened. But it turned out being a fascinating experiment as well, like to see kind of how the most Passio fans kind of behave and think and what they believe. And
you learn a lot, you know.
Yeah, and a lot of, I mean, I almost, in a way, because now I suppose I have to come clean, and this is kind of like, I suppose, good PR, trying to sort of clean clean up my act now, I suppose, because a lot of people from that group will listen to this video. The past month or so, some of these posts I made in there, my God, some people are probably thinking, is this a psyop? Is this guy against Pasio or something? Because I bitched a little bit lately because I kind of almost turned against the group because I kind of was disappointed because of that mentality that we described. Like people, they don't have they're just not independent thinkers, Thomas. Not even in our scene,
Oh no! They're everywhere.
Yeah.
You notice I see. I call them sheeple 2.0.
Sheeple 2.0. Yeah. I stole that term from you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like that's the main problem for me is we don't have enough oh screw it, I don't need it, guru. I don't. It's
Yes.
it's there's this terror of being wrong, and that's really just the danger.
Like we need people that are actually true sovereigns, like according to the proper definition of like completely sovereign, not the legal stuff, not losing the name and all that shit, but just sovereign, in their behavior and everything. I mean, speaking of that, and I'm not. This is again, it's not part of the set questions, but it came in mind now. We've got a little bit of time, if that's okay. Are you okay? Do you want to do another?
I'm okay for about another 10 minutes max.
Right, cool. Yeah, that's sort of what I was as well.
Yeah.
I believe it was only one interview. I don't know if it was with Vinnie Eastwood or somebody, but anyway, it was a recent one a couple of months ago where you were kind of saying that you had some it was with Vinnie Eastwood, I think, misgivings about this whole free man thing. And when I heard that, and people, some asshole, someone, I think it was even in the Pasio groups, like, oh look, Thomas Sheridan is a shill, and I watched this, and I'm like, what are they talking about? And when I heard it, I thought, yeah, I see what they mean. But then when I thought about it, I'm like, I was kind of involved in that Freeman thing. I, used to attend some lectures about it about 10 years ago in Melbourne. And I'm thinking, nothing happened. Like, you don't hear anything about that thing anymore. Like, Santos Bonacci and all these other guys that have done it. Like, all they end up is like getting in a truckload of trouble. So what's your take on that?
Well, for starters, I said nothing that was that bad. All I said was, as free men have to be looked upon today.
No, but what I'm saying is that you only said that. And like I said, when I heard the interview, I thought he didn't really say anything I wouldn't have said.
Yeah, and then I said if you have kids, it's probably to be very cautious.
Yes.
What's wrong with that?
No, well, but then again, like I said earlier, I mean, look at the hatred. Everyone's drinking haterade on Facebook. I mean, you say something wrong that they don't like, and suddenly you're a shill. Like, oh, look what Sheridan said. So.
But look at the Freeman thing. All I see are people, the leaders of the Freeman things. There's more photographs of them in handcuffs or giving. Giving press conferences from their prison cell.
That's not the best testimonial in the world, is it? Yeah.
Saying the legal system is a fiction. Then why is the bars in front of you? It's a fiction.
Well, that's well, the New Agers will say, well, it's a material universe, and these bars, these jail cells are just an illusion anyway. So, but I don't know. It is very difficult to beat the Matrix though. Like sometimes I get depressed, man. I'm probably I'm probably sure you feel like that as well sometimes, and all of us. It's like we've got the free man thing, we've got all this stuff, but then it never seems to. We think we got the one up on them, and then they just turn around, and they always find a way to shut us down or whatever. I mean, so I don't look at your buddy Vinnie Eastwood. Like you found out, right, that they shut down his channel recently. Well, what the hell's that all about? That's crazy. They shut down his YouTube channel. Yeah,
they can do anything they want. They're not going to give us the stadium and then give us the ball. It's as simple as that. We get one or the other.
Exactly,
and that's what's happening.
I mean, they give you it's like the dangling the carrot in front of the. I mean, they give you a little bit of freedom. You think, oh, we've got the YouTube now and everything, but then when you step over the line, like Vinnie Eastwood did, I mean, I commend him for having the balls to.
Yeah, no, they shut him.
But they shut
him because he was affecting the New Zealand elections.
The political stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so it goes to show you that in the smaller countries. Yes. Like New Zealand, like Ireland, you can do it.
Yes.
But to a point. But even then, they'll stop you.
Yes. Because I mean, that's when you're really becoming a threat. You're not just a guy that's just talking crap on the internet. You're just actually, he actually he changed things. He was causing some trouble. So, I mean, and here is a good point for me to make. I've been meaning, if we were going to bring this up, I would be meaning to throw this one in as well. By the way, for anyone listening and doesn't know, look this up. That the prime minister there, he's Rothschild Zionist connection, like definitely set up and put in there by those organizations and stuff, and David Icke and so forth have also exposed that, and I've looked into it, and it's shocking. It's like people, like that title. There's that book that came out in the 70s. It was called None Dare Call It Conspiracy. I don't remember who wrote it. It was well known, but none dare call it conspiracy, but conspiracy it is, as you can see. I mean, they're everywhere. It's shocking. But, I'm not anti-Semitic now. I'm just anti-Rothschild Zionism, ladies and gentlemen. You can shut my channel down if you want. Yeah,
and if you look into the background of the Rothschild family, they're not Jews, they're converted. They're more tied up with the princes of Frankfurt and the Germanic aristocrats.
I was going to say Germanic, that whole Ashkenazi theory and everything, yeah.
Yeah, no, not even that. I mean, they were actually just, it was just a big business deal for them to get involved with the banks, and it's like they didn't give a shit about anything. They were just only look. There's powerful Irish people like Peter Sutherland, and he's Ireland means nothing to him.
Yes,
just like the Jewish people, the ordinary working class Jewish people, mean nothing to the Rothschilds. Yes. We're talking about aristocrats.
Exactly.
They're not us.
Exactly. And these people, whatever they are, I mean, look at the Rockefellers, for instance, which some silly people on the internet say that they're secret Jews or whatever, but they're like from a Germanic family background.
Yeah, Dutch,
so you could call them the quote unquote Aryan branch of all that thing.
Yeah,
and they don't give a fuck. They don't give a shit about the American population or anything. All these people are globalists, man. They're basically globalists. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, they've moved beyond. They give us countries and religions to play with. It means nothing to them.
Exactly. So, because both of us, you and especially you, are running out of time, and I'll respect that, we have a few more minutes to get into our little surprise and a little present for everybody. This is an exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. It's like a Woodward and Bernstein moment to me. How did it happen? I'll try. You can tell us as well, but I'll try to describe kind of how it happened. I watched one of your interviews, which had been new at the time. It had only been uploaded like a couple of days, or it was very new. It was your newest at the time, a couple of months ago. And you briefly said something about your idea of what chemtrails are, but you didn't really expand on it much. And then I think I sent you a Facebook message on the spot after I listened to it. And you happened to be on right at that time, so in real time, you saw it and you replied, and we it was like one of those aha moments where two people completely how when two inventors kind of invent the same thing independently, we kind of came up, we had the exact same idea but never really had spoken about it before, and it was like, man, we were both saying, I agree, and this is a massive story and we're going to put it out. Basically, you think it's got to do with this Project Bluebeam and everything, like they're using them as a way to project like a very advanced 3D hologram in the sky to fake like a alien invasion. It's basically the Project Bluebeam conspiracy stuff. So tell us more about that one.
Well, no, let me clarify. I don't necessarily believe it's that.
Okay.
I think that's a theory, an idea I want to throw out, and I'll explain to you why I came up with that.
Okay.
I, like everyone else, about 7 years ago, I started noticing that jet plane trails were bigger, thicker, and stayed in the sky. Okay?
Yes.
And then I started going online and seeing all this crap, and it was absolute crap.
Yes.
About them gassing us and sending diseases down on us. And they were showing pictures of the interior.
That's fear-mongering. I think that's overkill.
Yeah. And you have images where we have NWO bomber, like that kind of thing, and it would killing us now for the Zionists. Oh, it's bullshit. And then they show photographs, and I'd ask, where's the proof of this? And they show you the photograph of an interior of an aircraft, and it would show ballast water testing tanks, which is what they use to test aircrafts to simulate passenger loadings.
Yes.
And they explain to them that's what they are. and because my brother works for a company that supplies those machines, so there's just water in them, and they say, "You're a liar, you're a shill." Where are the companies who are producing these billions of tons of chemicals? Yes. Where are these tens of thousands of pilots?
Yes.
Where is any of this proof? And it turns, and the whole thing, it's barium and lithium and all this stuff, and it turns out that was one sample collected off a road somewhere that could have fallen off the back of a fucking truck, right?
No, it's crazy. It's as crazy as that bullshit that they they say Alex Jones was Bill Hicks, those types of theories. It's completely insane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you have to have proof. You can't just say it, right?
Yeah.
So. And then I said, okay, let me look at other things. It's obviously not, we're not being gassed from the sky by so let me look at what else is happening. Mm-hmm. Is it more powerful aircraft engines today? And I said, well, why would they do that? That's a possibility. And then a friend of mine who is a former Royal Marines signals guy, which means that he's really brilliant at observation and stuff like that, intelligence. Me and him, we worked together at this place near here on the edge of the ocean, and we saw materializing with our own eyes in the sky one day a black tube.
Oh, right. Remember, you told me that in that message, actually. Yes. Wow.
A black tube. It was a perfectly blue sky, and it wasn't and there's pictures of these black tubes now on the internet.
Right. Yeah.
And it didn't appear like, it started one place and ended another. It appeared en masse. All in the same strip at the same time, coming almost vertically out of the ocean, and then an airplane flew through the black tube. Now, and he said, "Have a look at my binoculars." And I looked in the binoculars, and we looked at it, and I said, "That is not a fucking airplane.
Right?
It looks like a rocket."
Right.
And then he goes, "I got news for you. He says, I don't even think that thing is even in there. I think this is and we started looking up. The two of us started looking at the idea, and then I looked at the idea of a Bluebeam, right? And then I says, "Is this plausible?" Yes, it is plausible. Yeah. How do we know it's plausible? They've been doing it for years. They projected a giant angel over the French front lines at the Battle of Mons in France in World War I. They projected a giant image of the Virgin Mary over Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis, trying to get the Cubans.
The science, the secret science that these people have is like 100 years ahead of the.
Yeah, and it's not that difficult to do this shit, right? So let's then taking that further, right? So we have a precedence, right? So they've tried it in the past, and now they have technology like you wouldn't believe, right? Yeah. Then we started to look at other things. Why does the sky turn a kind of a silvery grey color afterwards? This was one that really got to us, and then I started looking at that, and I said that looks like a screen. That because it's too smooth, it's too pure. It looks like the inside of an old television screen, the old phosphorescent coating. And then we looked at the way lines are scanned in grids, and then it just dawned on me: they're turning the fucking sky into a gigantic television screen.
Right, that's incredible. Yeah, it makes sense now, both intellectually and just my spider sense is just buzzing now. I'm like, yep, he nailed it. That's fucking true.
And these planes, these strange planes and these strange videos and stuff are just simply projections.
Yes.
And the chemtrails may not even be there.
Yes.
They may just be projected onto. And why are they making these giant screens? I don't know. They could be something planning. It could be something as tacky as putting Microsoft logos in the sky or Google logos in the sky.
That's right. Yeah.
It could be something like actually changing the weather, like putting false weather up there. But it could be something else, like a false aircraft invasion, or even they wanted to go the alien thing. Yes. But either way, I think, okay, I'm not saying this is my theory. I'm saying, listen to this. It's just something, one more thing, because it could turn out to complete bullshit. But the more I look at the skies these days, I wonder how much of it is actually reality.
Yeah. Well, the chemtrail thing has always been one of the things that I haven't really, I never got on board with all the fear porn thing, like, oh, they're poisoning us, and look, and I always thought, no, man, it's something else, and I never could figure it out, but I think this is the best.
The poisons. That's easier, water and food, and they're doing that already.
Exactly. I mean, but like I said, it just didn't make sense. I didn't understand what they were. but it looks like we're closer than anyone has got. I think this is a most sensible explanation to date, I think, and I think a lot of people listening will be pretty, this will sound pretty good. So,
I just hope that people would go. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying it's thrown out there. A friend who we've discussed this with, like I said, he's a very astute former British military guy, and he's no idiot, and he's great at observation. And if he's thrown this out there as well, it's good enough for me. So just take this idea that we're speaking about now and explore and research. It may lead to a dead end, but it might actually surprise you that there's nothing to it.
That's right. For the people listening now, maybe just look into it. Maybe we've opened up on gotten a little bit deep into that chemtrails rabbit hole now, and understood it a bit, closer to figuring it out. I think. Yeah. So.
And like I said, there is a precedent of projecting images. Oh, and I'll tell you another one. This is before we go quickly.
Okay.
There was a massive amount of bizarre chemtrails around here in this neighborhood about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it was like, and these planes were flying in all kinds of directions. So it was like some kind of aircraft testing was going on or something, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, some religious cults said that the Virgin Mary would appear at sunset on top of a mountain near here, and people gathered on. Basically, it's a car park beside an airport on the top of the mountain.
Okay.
They all gathered there to see the Virgin Mary.
Yes.
In the weeks, I do a lot of. There's lots of. I live in the mountains here, so I do a lot of hiking and walking.
Okay.
For some reasons I can't understand, around that time this stuff was all being up in the sky, and these people claimed they saw the Virgin Mary.
Right.
The top of it near here was cleared off completely for no reason. The trees were all cut down, major boulders were moved out of the way, and a perfectly flat surface on top of a round mountain was put there. I stood on this and I could see perfect sight line to the actual spot at this location where the people they would see the Virgin Mary coming from.
Yes, that's
so you now wonder if they're using these religious cults to test these new visual systems on.
Right. Yeah. Well, religious cults are the the elite love religious cults.
Oh yeah. They want you to join them. That way, if you're waiting for the aliens or the comets or the gods. And you're not going to be any threat to them.
I listened to your latest, the one about the Vikings, that the upload you made about the Vikings, and I listened to about a little bit of it, 10 minutes or whatever, and you were about 10 minutes in, you were saying how even 1,000 years ago or so the elite were creating cults, they liked Christianity because it seemed like a good cult, good business to get into,
And all these monasteries were all cult compounds, and they were handy for leadership because one guy in heaven, one king on earth.
That's right. Exactly. So, I mean, the same thing is continuing today, and we're trying to expose it as much as we can or whatever, but we'll see what happens. We need more red pills, ladies and gentlemen, but...
as long as we're talking, we're winning. Yeah. That's how I see it.
Well, that's true. They haven't shut us down or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, they've shut down Vinny Eastwood, but I mean, it's not that tragic. He's got like a backup channel and stuff. He's like, I don't care. He backed up all his videos and whatever. But it's just such a massive. It's more like a psychological war. It's like it just proved to him and to us that, like, see, we have the power. We can shut you down, punk. You know what I mean? Like, if you say what we don't like. So it's like sending us a message that we can't step over the line. But okay, man. I think you have to go now, yeah?
Yeah, I've got to do a few things before I go to bed. I appreciate this. I very much enjoyed this, Constantine, and thank you for that.
Yeah, you can call me Con, by the way. People usually just call me Con. I mean, that Constantine is a bit of a, I'm surnameless. I'm surnameless on Facebook, and it's actually with a C, Constantine, but I've made it with a K and everything. Just it's my what's it called? Pen name or whatever.
Handle.
Yeah. But because I just don't want to have my surname, not because I've got a psychopathic past. It's just just some long Greek name, Marinopoulos, something like that. So but it's just it's not very marketable, quote unquote, you can say as well. And but anyway, okay, this was awesome, man. I I was a little bit, I didn't know what to expect, blah blah blah, and I kind of thought I didn't know if I was going to handle myself and whatever, but I tried my best with the questions and tried to be as pro as we could and everything. I think it turned out awesome.
We've definitely given people food for thought and something that they can.
Yeah. I enjoyed it heaps, and I'll see you around on the Facebooks, and we'll do this again. We'll make it. You know, this is going to be a regular thing. I hope from now on.
Okay.
So
So
yeah,
I'll see you, bro. Thanks very much.
see you around, man. See ya. It was great.
All
Bye.
the best.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.